8 terrifying bridges around the world you won't believe actually exist. A suspension bridge hangs high above a mountain peak with a seemingly bottomless chasm far below and nothing but a wall of white fog stretching out ahead. Another bridge is made neither of steel nor concrete, but woven entirely from grass. Yet people still dare to cross it above a deep, rushing river. Then there is an ancient bridge with a name chilling enough to send shivers down your spine. The Devil's Bridge, where legend says the devil himself took part in its construction. And in another place, you have to grip tightly onto chains and carefully place one foot after another on wooden planks precariously clinging to the side of a cliff. One glance downward can make your legs instantly go weak. Think these bridges are scary enough? Not even close. Because there is one bridge hidden among snow-covered mountains where a single storm can transform the entire landscape into a blinding white world. Another bridge sways high in the air so violently that even the bravest visitors have to hold their breath. But the most astonishing part is this. People didn't just dare to step onto these bridges. They actually built them to cross places where nature itself seems determined to keep humans away. From towering mountain peaks in Europe to the deep rivers of the Andes, the treacherous gorges of Pakistan, the sheer cliffs of China, and the mysterious stone forest of Madagascar. 8 bridges, 8 challenges. And each one has a story that will make you ask yourself, if you were standing in front of this bridge, would you dare to take the first step? So, which bridge is terrifying enough to make even the bravest person hesitate? Join Discovery Fact as we begin our journey to explore 8 of the strangest and most terrifying bridges on Earth right now. Petrie, the suspension bridge hanging in the fog, making you dizzy before you even cross it. Let's begin our journey on the Crimean Peninsula, where there is a mountain with a rather gentle-sounding name, Petrie, which means St. Peter in Greek. But don't let the name fool you. Petrie rises to about 4,049 feet and is one of the most famous landmarks in the Yalta region. Compared with Roman Kosh, which is higher and located on the same peninsula, Petrie is not the tallest mountain. Yet what makes this place famous is found in a very special location, a precarious suspension bridge perched high on the mountain peak. The bridge is about 148 feet long and is divided into 2 sections that form a V shape, with a support point in the middle resting on a rocky outcrop. From a distance, it looks like nothing more than a thin rope stretched across the sky, but once you get closer, the feeling is completely different. If you want to cross this bridge, you have to hold tightly onto 2 ropes stretched across the bridge at chest height, while beneath your feet are wooden planks spaced just far enough apart for you to take one step at a time. Sounds simple, right? But now add one more thing to the equation: wind and fog. Why? Because Petrie is well known for its cloudy and foggy weather. Meteorological records mentioned in documents about the area have recorded years with an exceptionally high number of foggy days. The winds at the summit can also be extremely strong, with maximum speeds reportedly reaching around 112 miles per hour. And this is exactly when the bridge transforms from a tourist attraction into a psychological test. On a clear day, people crossing the bridge can look down over Yalta and in the distance see the Black Sea. The view is so breathtaking that you might even forget you are standing high above the mountains. But when the fog rolls in, everything changes completely. Suddenly, all you can see in front of you is a wall of white. You can no longer clearly see the end of the bridge. There is nothing but open space on either side, while the bridge gently sways beneath your feet with every step. If you're still watching, try to imagine this. You place one foot on the first wooden plank, then you bring your second foot forward, and suddenly the bridge starts to sway. Would you keep going? I bet if you're someone with a weak heart, the answer would definitely be no. But if you still manage to keep moving forward, then you are certainly an incredibly brave person who has conquered your own fear. And you know what? Those winners are rewarded with an incredible view of nature from high above. To reach Petrie, you can travel by road or take the cable car from Miscor. The cable car route stretches for nearly 1.9 miles and includes a remarkably long span between its support towers, creating an unforgettable experience even before you set foot on the bridge. In other words, at Petrie, the challenge doesn't begin when you step onto the bridge. It begins the moment you decide to go there. Just thinking about it already makes you nervous, doesn't it? But what if this isn't even the scariest bridge? Let's head to another bridge, one that may be even more terrifying, located in Peru. And that bridge is Quechua Chaca, the grass bridge that crosses a deep river. If you think the scariest bridges have to be made of steel and concrete, then hold that thought for a moment. Because in Peru, there is a bridge that might completely change the way you think about what a bridge can be. And that bridge is Quechua-Chaca, a traditional grass bridge that stretches across the Apurimac River in the Andes. What makes it so extraordinary is the material itself. Not steel, not concrete, and not modern suspension cables. It is made from a material that might seem almost impossible to use for a bridge: grass. You know, hundreds of years ago, the Inca people had to find ways to cross deep rivers and steep gorges throughout the Andes long before modern roads and bridges existed. And that was where the idea of using grass to build bridges was born. The type of grass they used was called ichu. Ichu was harvested, dried, twisted into fibers, and then braided into large bundles of rope. From these incredibly simple materials, they created bridges with surprisingly impressive strength. At one time, hundreds of bridges like this could be found throughout the Andes. But over time, most of them disappeared, and Quechua-Chaca became one of the last remaining traditional grass bridges still maintained today. And the most fascinating part is that the bridge is not simply preserved, it is rebuilt every year. Local Quechua communities continue to maintain the traditional techniques. Each family takes part by preparing bundles of grass that can be about 230 feet long. The smaller fibers are then twisted together, combined into larger ropes, and finally braided together to form the body of the bridge. UNESCO has recognized the skills and rituals associated with rebuilding this bridge as intangible cultural heritage. That means the bridge you see today is not simply an ancient bridge that has been sitting in place for hundreds of years. It is a structure that is rebuilt by people year after year, with the knowledge and techniques passed down from one generation to the next. And this is what makes it truly remarkable. The local people do not build the bridge simply as a way to get from one side of the river to the other. The process of weaving the bridge also helps the community preserve its connections, rituals, and the historical memories of its ancestors. At one point, people who wanted to cross the bridge had to pay a fee. But instead of money, as we would use today, ichu grass became a valuable and practical resource. It may sound strange, but in the world of the Inca, a bundle of grass at the right moment could be just as important as a bag of money. Today, even though a modern bridge has been built nearby, Quechua-Chaca continues to exist. And perhaps the scariest thing about standing on it isn't the grass beneath your feet. It is realizing that a technique originating hundreds of years ago is still alive in the modern world. Do you think so too? Let me know in the comments below. Teufelsbrücke, the bridge known as the Devil's Bridge. Now we travel to Switzerland, where an ancient bridge has become the central figure in a mysterious legend that has endured for hundreds of years. Its name is Teufelsbrücke, also known as the Devil's Bridge. The bridge is located in the Schulinen Gorge, along the route leading to the Gotthard Pass. This was once an important transportation route, but the terrain here was incredibly treacherous. A narrow gorge, the powerful Rius River rushing through it, and steep cliffs rising on both sides. According to legend, the local people became so desperate that they had no choice but to ask the devil himself to build the bridge. The story says that a shepherd begged for help. The devil appeared and agreed to build the bridge, but in return he demanded the soul of the first person to cross it. At this point, you can probably guess what happened next, right? But the villagers had no intention of paying such a price. So when the bridge was completed, they drove a goat across it first. Furious at being tricked by the villagers, the devil picked up a massive rock and intended to smash the newly built bridge. But on the way to the bridge, he encountered an old woman carrying a cross. Terrified, the devil abandoned the rock and fled. Of course, this is a folk legend, not historical evidence that the devil actually built the bridge. But the story reveals just how astonished people in the past must have been by the ability to construct a route through such an incredibly difficult landscape. The first bridge in this area was built around the 13th century. The wooden bridge was repeatedly damaged by the weather and was eventually replaced by a stone arch bridge in the 16th century. Then, during the Napoleonic Wars in 1799, the area once again became a battlefield, and the bridge was severely damaged. A new bridge was built in the 19th century, while the old stone bridge was eventually destroyed by a storm in 1888. Today, the historic bridge remains part of the Schulinen landscape, although it no longer serves the same transportation role it once did. And there is one particularly fascinating detail. A massive rock associated with the legend of the Devil's Rock still remains in the area. The rock weighs around 220 US short tons and was once moved approximately 417 feet to make way for the construction of the Gotthard Tunnel route. In 1994, an image of Teufelsbrücke and the devil carrying the massive rock even appeared on a Swiss coin. So, if someone asks you what makes this bridge so frightening, feel free to give them a confident answer. It isn't frightening simply because of the deep gorge beneath it. It is also frightening because of the story that people have been telling about this bridge for hundreds of years. Geierlei, the bridge in the forest that makes your legs shake. Leaving the ancient bridges behind, we now head into the lush Hunsrück forests of Germany, where there is a bridge that looks like something straight out of an adventure movie. Its name is Geierlei. This pedestrian suspension bridge connects the communities of Mersdorf and Soesberg, stretching across a green valley below. It is about 1,181 feet long, with its highest point approximately 328 feet above the ground. If you stand on the ground and look up, Geierlei is already an impressive sight. But once you find yourself standing in the middle of the bridge, the feeling is completely different. Because this is a suspension bridge. Every step creates a slight movement. The wind blows through the open spaces, steel cables run along both sides, and far below, the valley stretches through the surrounding forest. And just like many other famous suspension bridges, Geierlei has one particularly interesting feature. It makes your brain constantly remind you, don't look down. But you know how people are. The more you're told not to look, the more you want to look, right? The idea of building the bridge was first proposed years earlier, but it wasn't until a feasibility study had been completed that the project was finally put into action. Construction began on May 26, 2015, and was completed in less than 6 months. The goal wasn't simply to build a bridge. Local officials wanted to turn the area into a major tourist attraction while also encouraging visitors to explore the hiking trails throughout the region. And clearly, that strategy worked. After opening, Geierlei quickly became a popular tourist destination, attracting large numbers of visitors to the Hunsrück region. Interestingly, when you stand on the bridge on a beautiful day, what you see isn't a terrifying landscape at all. Instead, you are surrounded by what looks like an endless sea of green trees. But the moment the wind picks up, the experience changes instantly. The bridge sways. The steel cables move, and you start taking smaller, slower steps. That is exactly what makes Geierlei so fascinating. It doesn't need a gorge thousands of feet deep or ancient wooden planks. All it takes is a long suspension bridge hanging above a forest to force people to confront their own instinctive fear of heights. And if you're thinking, I could probably do it, well, congratulations. You really are one brave soul. But remember, don't turn around in the middle of the bridge just to take a pretty picture, because I bet after that little turn, you won't dare take another step forward. Treacherous Cliff Walk, the suspension bridge 328 feet above the icy void. If Geierlei makes your legs shake because of the height, then the next bridge will take that fear to a completely different level. So, how is it different? Let's travel to Engelberg in central Switzerland, where the summit of Mount Titlis is surrounded year-round by snow, ice, and the majestic Swiss Alps, and experience it for ourselves. Because this is where you'll find Treacherous Cliff Walk, a suspension bridge located at an elevation of approximately 9,977 feet above sea level, and often described as the highest suspension bridge in Europe. The bridge itself is only about 328 feet long. Doesn't sound too scary, right? But now, look down. Far below is a drop of approximately 1,640 feet, and the bridge is only about 3.3 feet wide. So are you starting to feel your heart pounding and your legs getting shaky yet? The bridge was officially opened in 2012, marking the 100th anniversary of the Treacherous cable car system. Building it in high-altitude conditions, surrounded by snow, ice, and extremely rugged terrain was a major challenge for the engineers and construction workers. Today, you can reach the bridge from the summit area of Titlis. The entire crossing takes only about 150 steps, but those might be 150 steps that many people remember for a very long time. Why? Because when the weather is clear, the reward is an incredible panoramic view of the Alps. You can see snow-covered mountain peaks stretching all the way to the horizon. But what happens when the weather suddenly turns bad? That's a completely different story. Strong winds and snow can dramatically reduce visibility. When that happens, you can barely sense the true scale of the empty space beneath you, and sometimes not being able to see the drop below can actually make people feel even more nervous. What is especially important to understand is that Titleist Cliff Walk is not some temporary or makeshift structure. It was designed according to modern engineering standards and operates as a high-altitude mountain attraction. So, the frightening part isn't that the bridge is about to collapse. It's the psychological sensation of standing in the middle of a 328-foot-long bridge, more than 9,800 feet above sea level, while freezing winds blow across your face. On one side there is the mountain, on the other, the sky, and beneath your feet, nothing but open space. So if you ever get the chance to visit, choose a day with good weather. Because the breathtaking scenery may be the very thing that helps you forget you're standing in a place capable of making your knees tremble with every step. Husseini, the bridge dubbed the most dangerous in the world. The Husseini Suspension Bridge is the second longest suspension bridge in the world, stretching for more than 656 feet across the beautiful Borat Lake in Pakistan. It has also been dubbed one of the most dangerous bridges in the world. Located in northern Pakistan, the bridge connects the residents of Zarabad village with Husseini village in the Gilgit-Baltistan region. The bridge is held together by a system of ropes and more than 400 rough, widely spaced wooden planks. Thin steel cables run along the sides, creating a structure that looks anything but solid, and directly beneath it is a fast-flowing river. Looking down from the bridge can be a terrifying experience, challenging even the bravest people. When crossing the Husseini Suspension Bridge, even a single gust of wind can make the entire bridge and the people standing on it sway and shake. But there is something important to understand about this bridge. It was not built simply for thrill seekers looking for an adrenaline rush. It was created out of a practical need for transportation within the local community. The bridge serves as an important route, making life easier for people on both sides by allowing them to avoid climbing over high mountain ranges or crossing large rivers. It also helps connect the villagers with the outside world. For the local people, crossing this bridge has therefore become a familiar part of everyday life. A bridge at this location was first built around 1968 and was later rebuilt after geological changes and natural disasters affected the area. Over time, images of the bridge, with its widely spaced wooden planks, spread across the internet. What began as a structure serving the everyday needs of the local community gradually became a famous destination for adventure seekers. And if you actually step onto the bridge, the scenery around you can be surprisingly beautiful. The Hunza River, the Hunza Valley, towering mountain ranges, and the distant landscape around Pasu create a truly spectacular backdrop. And that creates a fascinating paradox. You are so terrified that you don't even dare to look down. But if you refuse to look down, you may miss one of the most breathtaking views in the mountains of northern Pakistan. So Husseini isn't just a story about fear, it is also a story about how people adapt to harsh terrain in order to maintain their way of life. But what about the title, The Most Dangerous Bridge in the World? That is primarily how the bridge has been described by the media and tourists, rather than an official engineering designation. And perhaps the more accurate way to describe it would be one of the most intimidating looking suspension bridges in the world. The Plank Walk on Mount Huashan, China. From Pakistan, we now continue our journey to China, and if you thought Husseini was enough to make you afraid of heights, just take a look at Mount Huashan. Located in Shanxi province, Huashan rises to about 7,070 feet and is one of China's famous 5 great mountains. The mountain is known for its sheer cliffs, sharp peaks, and most notably, a network of trails that cling tightly to the mountainside. Among them, the most remarkable are the sections of narrow wooden planks built along the cliffs, commonly known as the Plank Walk. From a distance, it looks like a wooden balcony attached directly to the face of the mountain, but as you get closer, you realize that what lies beneath your feet isn't solid ground at all. It is a seemingly bottomless drop. To make your way across the most dangerous sections of this route, you have to grip metal chains and carefully move one step at a time across narrow wooden planks. Some sections even feature steep, narrow stone steps, forcing climbers to use both their hands and feet. One of the most famous sections of the Huashan Trail is a staircase with a beautiful sounding name, the Stairway to Heaven. The name sounds wonderfully poetic, doesn't it? But the actual experience is anything but poetic. The route up the mountain includes thousands of stone steps, with steep sections where climbers have to constantly hold on to chains. And after making it all the way up, you still have to come back down. Just imagine what that feels like. If you're thinking, maybe I'll do it just once just to see what it's like, then remember this. The journey back down is just as heart-stopping as the climb up. The plank trails on Mount Huashan have a long history and are often described as having existed for centuries. However, their current form has undergone reinforcement and safety management to accommodate the large number of tourists who visit today. Cable cars were also introduced in the 1990s, making the journey somewhat less physically demanding. Today, visitors are equipped with safety harnesses when traveling across the more dangerous sections. But a safety harness can't erase the feeling you get when you look down, because beneath your feet is a sheer cliff. In front of you is a narrow wooden plank, and inside your head, there is only one thought: keep moving. What makes Huashan fascinating isn't just the danger. The mountain is also home to ancient Taoist temples, centuries-old legends, and extraordinary landscapes featuring seas of clouds, breathtaking sunrises, and spectacular sunsets. That's why millions of visitors are drawn to this region every year. Huashan shows us something rather fascinating. Sometimes humans don't conquer nature by making it less dangerous. They simply find a way to place a narrow path right through a place that seems impossible to cross. So what about you? Would you dare to walk across a bridge like this? Let me know in the comments below. Tsingy de Bemaraha, the bridge among the sharp stone forest. And finally, we arrive in Madagascar. If there is one place that makes you feel as though you have stepped into another world, it is Tsingy de Bemaraha. The name Tsingy is generally understood to have a meaning close to a place where you cannot walk barefoot, which is an incredibly fitting description of the landscape here. Instead of smooth, rounded mountains, Tsingy de Bemaraha is a world filled with countless razor-sharp limestone pinnacles packed closely together. Wind, rain, and geological processes have shaped this extraordinary karst landscape, creating towering rock formations, deep gorges, caves, and forests growing between the rocks. UNESCO has even described the area as a limestone landscape featuring impressive forests of limestone pinnacles and deep canyons. And in the middle of this world of jagged stone are bridges, walkways, and observation points designed for visitors. Some of these bridges are suspended at considerable heights above the ground, making people feel as though they are walking through a gigantic maze of stone. If you look down, the first thing that catches your eye isn't a flat trail. It's the sharp rock formations rising beneath you. Just imagining yourself slipping here is enough to give many people goosebumps. But take a closer look. Between those seemingly barren rock formations lies an incredibly rich ecosystem. Forests weave their way through the stone towers. Sunlight filters down into the deep gorges. And this is home to numerous species of lemurs, along with a wide variety of rare birds. UNESCO has also recognized the area's exceptional biological value. Tsingy de Bemaraha was inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List in 1990. So, this isn't simply a destination for thrill seekers, it is an ecosystem that needs to be protected. Visitors can follow designated routes designed to provide access to some of the area's most remarkable sections, look down at the lush green forest below, or venture deeper into the canyons and caves. And the farther you go, the stranger the landscape becomes. Towering rocks rise like thousands of enormous spears. Green vegetation grows among the stones. Deep canyons cut through the heart of the forest. Together, they create a landscape unlike almost anywhere else on Earth. Perhaps that is also why the bridges at Tsingy de Bemaraha don't need to be particularly long or extremely high to make people nervous. The surrounding landscape is already frightening enough. And when you step onto a small bridge in the middle of this stone forest, it doesn't feel like you're walking across a man-made structure. It feels more like walking along a narrow path through a maze created by millions of years of geological forces. Just imagining what that must feel like is already incredibly fascinating, isn't it? Dear friends, and just like that, we've made our way across 8 of the most terrifying bridges in the world. From the fog-covered suspension bridge on Petri, the grass bridge of Keshwachaka, the legendary Devil's Bridge, Teufelsbrücke, Geierlei hidden among the forests of Germany, Titlis in the Alps, Husseini in Pakistan, the sheer cliffs of Mount Huashan, all the way to the stone forest of Singi de Bemaraha. Each one has its own unique kind of terror. Some are frightening because of the height, some because of the wind, and some are terrifying simply because their structure is enough to make you dizzy just by looking at it. But the most fascinating thing is that many of these bridges were never built to frighten people. They were built because people needed a way to cross places that nature seemed determined to make impossible to reach. And that is what makes them truly incredible. A bridge might be nothing more than a few wooden planks, a handful of ropes, or a narrow path clinging to the side of a cliff. But behind it could be hundreds of years of history, an entire community, an ancient tradition, or an example of human ingenuity in the face of nature's greatest challenges. What about you? If you had to choose, which one of these 8 bridges would you actually dare to cross? Or would simply seeing the pictures be enough to make you turn around and head straight home? Let us know your choice in the comments below. And if you enjoy discovering strange, mysterious, and incredible places around the world, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you can join us as we continue exploring places you may never have imagined could actually exist. For now, goodbye, and we'll see you in the next adventure.